I've been pretty clear over the years that gimmicky seed starting things are not really something I'm into. I'm a pretty big believer in once you get to the point where you realize you're going to be starting seeds for the long term, to just invest in good trays, invest in good equipment, and just use that rather than a bunch of gimmicky things. And today I'm about to show you something that I think is a total seed starting gimmick that I am definitely trying. This is a seed snail. And this is definitely gimmicky. Last year, seed snails were all over social media. Everywhere you turn, people were growing in seed snails. And I looked at this the way I look at a lot of these sort of magic seed starting things that seem to go, viral. And I didn't pay much attention to it. And then my mom did it. And you know what? She had a ton of success with it. In fact, she gave me a couple of seed snails because she had too many. And the plants are great. So I thought, let's give this a try because I think this method has a lot of merit. So one of the benefits of this method, in my opinion, is that you don't need any special anything for it. There's a bunch of different things you can make these out of. You don't need fancy seed trays. You probably still need a grow light because growing in windows is hard, but you could do it in there as well, of course. But you don't need any fancy anything. So in that way, it's very low commitment. It's also an incredible way to maximize your space because you can fit a lot of seedlings into a seed snail in just the footprint of what maybe a 4-cell tray might normally take up. And the other benefit I see of these is I think it's a really good way to limit yourself in planting your seeds. So how many of us have taken a pack of seeds and ended up sowing the whole pack when we know perfectly well we have nothing to do with all of those plants? We don't need them. This is a very good way to limit how many you actually grow because when we put the seeds in, we're just going to follow that snail and we're going to space out those seeds in the correct spacing from the get-go. So today I'm going to show you how I make mine, and I'm going to show you how to make them in different sizes. Now listen, this is not rocket science here. You can certainly figure out how you make these bigger or smaller. But you're going to see this one, which is fairly modestly sized, and then some bigger ones that are taller, which you might want for plants that are going to be in them longer or for plants that want a longer root run. And then also some with more soil volume in. So there's a little bit more room for those seedlings to root out. You can use all kinds of materials for the skin of your seed snail. This is just a very thin packing foam that I happened to buy. You probably have something around your house that you could actually use for this without having to go buy anything. I see a lot of people use bubble wrap for them. I've seen them done with burlap, with old fabric. I think anything that you can manipulate and get into a long strip should work fine for this. The only kinds of materials that I think I don't know how they would work would be something like corrugated cardboard, which would be, first of all, difficult to roll and get it tight enough, but also potentially could get quite soggy in there, which I don't know if that would be the best for the plants. But you can use your imagination on this. And all you need is this and then something to hold them together once you get to the end of the roll, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, start by taking a piece of whatever you're going to use as the outside of your roll. I'm going to do about 4 feet for this because I want to make a bit of a fatter one than my last one. You can always retrim it later. Then I fold this edge so that I can get whatever depth I want for this. I like it to be a little bit deeper. In my opinion, seedlings want more root room than we tend to give them. And they do better when they have a spot to send their roots down a little deeper than most seed trays allow us. Then you just put your growing medium in there. This is Organic Mechanic seed starting mix. Mixed with a little bit of bone meal, kelp meal, and blood meal. It's a bit of a take on the Floret Flowers seedling mix that she recently shared. I don't add compost to it because there is already compost in the Organic Mechanics seed starting mix as well as worm castings. Now I want this to be a little bit thicker, and I like to put the mix on dry because I think it's just so much easier to work with and less messy when it's dry. And then I will add moisture to it next, but I don't really want a big wet tub of seed starting mix laying around. So I'm just going to use a mister here to moisten this up a little bit, just to kind of hold it together a little bit on the edges. But we will lose quite a bit, which is why it's important to have something like this waterproof mat that I have here, or something else underneath this, because it is going to get a little messy. I would say if you've ever been very successful at rolling a burrito, now is the right time to bring those skills, because that will be helpful. Okay, so once you have your roll, now you have to seal it up in some way. Some people use rubber bands for this. I like to use plastic wrap. So that got a little crunched up on me, but I'm just going to use that as a band to kind of hold it together, and then we can do a bigger one. Then you can just set it in a tray. You are going to lose some soil out the bottom of this, so you want to probably keep it, at least at first, you want to keep it somewhere where that's okay. And then once that's in there, I like to fill in the top, because some areas might have lost a little bit. And I like to sort of pack it in a little bit too. All right, so now I have two quite fat seed snails here, significantly bigger than the one I did for my peas. So you can see that you can really play around with this. In fact, it's kind of nice. This one's going to fit right in this same tray with them. So I'm going to do actually a couple of flowers in here. Although I think I will probably do this for kale to get a head start on kale. I think that'd be a really easy thing to do. It's a little early for that for me. But I think when it comes time for that, I will do that. This is Mountain Garland Clarkia. I have never grown Clarkia. It's sort of an old-fashioned flower. So I'm going to try this in here. This particular one is, this is a cool season flower. Gets to 2.5 feet, and we want to place these 1/8 of an inch deep, basically. So I'm going to actually do this one because I've got a little bit more room to fill in soil on the top of this one. So when I do these, I just sort of follow the swirl. And in this case, this one has quite a large center. You can see it right here. So I'm actually going to do a handful of seedlings. Now, the thing with this is that the whole idea of these is that you don't have to thin these. So you really do want to, this is kind of a smaller seed. It was much easier with the pea. You really don't want to overseed these, because you really don't want to end up in a situation where you have to thin, because I could see thinning being a little bit of a problem with these. Other than, and if you are going to thin, you shouldn't pull them out. You should just cut them off. That is done. Sewn. 1/8 inch deep for those. I'm just going to lightly press them in, and we're just going to dust over the top of this lightly with a little bit more potting mix. The other one we're going to do is Silene Sabella Carmine. This is a lovely little annual that I really do like. It fizzles out big time in the heat. It does a little bit better for me in the ground than it does in containers when it comes to the heat, but it's beautiful in containers if you can plan on swapping it out once the heat of summer comes, because it will not put up with that at all. But beautiful in a mass planting in the ground. And in the ground, I found that in an area that's not like cooking all day, it can actually do quite well and make it through most of the summer. This is actually not the mister I use for my seeds typically. This is the one I use for haircuts, but that's what was up here. Might want to do a little layer of vermiculite on these like I do with all my seedlings. And then we're going to bottom soak this, because keep in mind, these really have no moisture in them yet. So I am going to put some water in here and bottom soak these to help keep them moist. There's a lot of soil volume in here. So once that soil is properly hydrated, it's really just a matter of keeping the top few inches moist while those seeds germinate, and that's about it. If I have the kind of success with this method that my mom did last year, I think this has a ton of merit, especially for people who don't have a lot of room or don't really want to invest into the stuff that goes into long-term seed starting stuff. I also think this is a really good way to try out some seeds that you're not sure if you're gonna love without a lot of commitment. This is pretty easy, pretty quick, takes up very minimal room. You don't need to dedicate any of your special seed trays to it. And that way you get to try things out with a very low commitment situation. All right, there you go. Those are seed snails. Let me know if you've tried them before or if you're gonna give them a try this year, and we will check in on these throughout the spring.